This is Paul from UW-Tacoma's Multimedia Lab. You know, a common assignment we assist students on a regular basis with is the video interview. Ultimately, it's simply spending time with someone and recording your conversation, but you must keep your audience in mind and try to create an interesting and engaging video. The last thing you want to do is make your 5-minute video feel like it's 15 minutes long. I'm going to throw out several tips to help you improve your project, and hopefully you use a few of them the next time you perform a video interview. Now you're going to want to get yourself some gear. Go over to WG 108. It's located directly above Subway. The media equipment desk is right there when you walk in, and you're going to get yourself a camera, a battery, and a power cord, a tripod, and some of the equipment is limited in terms of how many they have. So, if they have headphones, get some. If not, you can use your earbuds from your phone. Get a microphone. If they don't, you'll have to use the camera's microphone, and you'll have to put it really close to your subject. You can use lights. You can get camera lights if you know how to use them. And I would definitely recommend that you ask all the questions to operate the gear before you leave the desk, so that somebody can walk you through, show you how to do everything. Over here on the right hand side is just all of the equipment that you as a student here at UW-Tacoma have access to check out on a first come first serve a weekly basis that your student technology fee funds cover. All right, and then once you're finished, once you're all done with your recording, bring your footage and your camera down to Cherry Park 005 to the Multimedia Lab. Here we do a lot of video editing, a lot of Photoshop work. There's always somebody with you that can walk you through the process, so you won't be, so you don't have to be hesitant. We'll hold your hand, get you through the process. We're in Cherry Park 005. Here's Phillip Hall. It's over here in this building off to the right-hand side. And if you're coming in on the Pacific side, we're directly behind Indochine. So you get to the interview, you're ready to start, and here's a few just suggestions. You really want to write down your questions so you don't forget that one thing that we're going to ask, or a follow-up question. Bring some note cards and a pen. Warm up your subject with some chit-chat. Talk about the weather. Talk about the Seahawks. Don't go right into the hard-hitting stuff right off the bat. Oftentimes, the interviewee doesn't really warm up until near the end of the interview. So if you can do 5 minutes of just casual conversation and get them going, get them to forget that the camera's right there. Resist the urge to interrupt your subject. This is key for editing afterwards. So don't jump in, don't interrupt, don't talk over the top of them. Let them finish their phrases. And instead of saying, yeah, oh, that's great, engage your subject with lots of nods, lots of smiles, and receptive, exaggerated gestures. That way they're getting visual feedback and they know to continue or move on, or they'll reflect your smile. You want them engaging and warm, unless it's a sad story, of course. Ask your subject to incorporate your question into the answer so that you can remove your voice in the edit. This way, we don't hear you talking because the camera's primarily going to be focused on your interviewee. So when you ask your subject, could you tell me a little bit about the first day you met your bride? They will come back and begin their phrase with, the first day I met my bride was late autumn, blah, blah, blah. You get it? So that you can cut out your question asking it, and you can just start with what they have to say, and they're already telling us what they're about to talk about. And try to keep your subject from rambling. This is a little tough because we don't want to be rude. We want to be polite. We want to hear what they have to say. But, the last thing you really want to do for a 5 or 10 minute video is show up with 60 minutes of footage. Try to keep your interview concise. If they mention something that you really want to dig into, re-ask the question from a different angle and have them rephrase their question in the answer, and you can edit pieces together into something coherent. So try to keep it short. 30 minutes for a 5 to 10 minute video should be plenty. So this is where having headphones or earbuds is really important. We don't realize how much noise that the refrigerator or air conditioning makes, or the TV or the fan. So, if it's in the other room. A video recently was ruined by a family member who's on a cell phone in the other room, and they weren't listening. They were just looking at their monitor. So make sure that you use some headphones. Make sure that you can hear your subject above all else. And also, when you're in there, we talked about zipping it when you shoot. Don't talk over the top. Don't say, it's okay, that's great. Just give them all that good visual body language and, lots of head nods and smiles. Smile, smile. So we've all seen this kind of video, right? The witness protection. This is caused by putting a subject right in front of the sun, and the iris on the camera shuts down and exposes based on the light, and it shuts down all the detail on your face. To fix this is just to turn your subject, use the window on the side, and spill the light on the side, just like this. If you're outside, make sure you take notice to where the sun is. You can actually kind of recreate this outside accidentally if the sun's behind your subject, especially if it's later in the day or early in the morning. Make sure the sun is behind you and on your subject's face. Okay, so if you've had any photography experience, you'll recognize that this is the rule of thirds. And essentially what it says is that the points of interest kind of fall on these axis points. If you were to slap this Brady Bunch type of grid over your framing, that the access points would be your points of interest. So you can see this gentleman's eyes, and you generally line their eyes up pretty much right in the, no matter how tight or far away you get with your framing, you want the eyes pretty much on a point. Okay, so this happens quite a bit is folks put their subject right on a wall, and often it's because they don't have the room or they just don't think about it. We just naturally take pictures of people standing up against walls. But if you just pull them back a little bit, you give them a little, they become more of the focus. It becomes a lot more interesting. You've created some depth behind them. The shadows aren't on the wall. And it's just, if you watch interviews, reality TV, they're never sitting, in a corner or right up on your front door or on your wall. So let's talk a little bit about where the camera position is going to be. Generally, you're going to have, let's look down here at the table, folks. And this is the gentleman. He's on the left-hand side. He's in the rule of thirds. And he's looking across the camera. Here's the camera right here. And the interviewer is right on the right side looking at him. Have the subject look you while you talk to them and ask them the questions. So you can see the flip from over the top. The interviewer is sitting directly on the side of the camera. Don't sit way to the side, but just sit right to the side of the camera. Have them look across the camera towards you. Don't sit on the same side as the framing. If they're on this side, don't sit on this side of the camera. Have the axis of their eye line across the camera so that they have some nice leading nose room out in front of them. Here's just another image of a gentleman sitting next to his couple of cameras. Okay, so just looking at this, you probably can kind of tell there's a few things wrong with it. Let's kind of go through some of them. So the first one that I'll point out is the rule of thirds. You slap that grid on there, and the real interesting points are right here and right here. But they kind of followed them. They put her on a third, but you know what? They actually put this image in the poster on a third as well. So and their eye line is very similar. This is all fighting for attention with her. She should be up. If she's going to look to the screen left, she should be up in this area. Look at all this empty wall. Nothing happening and everything happening here. She should be looking across the right-hand side of the frame so that her eyes and hand gestures have room right in here, not looking out on the short side of the frame that she's already on. It feels like all of this wants to tip the frame and have her fall right out. It just looks so unbalanced. Okay, and then like I said before, all that busyness, she's right up on the wall. It happens to be a wall with posters and faces and readable text and and a whiteboard that should never be in there. You can solve that problem by pulling her out away from the wall. Now, what we had to do in the multimedia lab is digitally zoom in on her image right here, move her framing to the right and up so that she's now following the rule of thirds in her eye line. We still couldn't get rid of the distracting poster here. The only thing we might be able to do is put a blur on that. But if they had pulled her off the wall by at least maybe 5 feet, this would have been a lot less distracting. Here's some reality show and documentary style television interviews. So we see this all the time. We see this type of rule of third framing. But we generally, when we get when we get the camera in our hands, oftentimes we'll put the subject dead center, tons of space above their head, no lead or nose room. Look, at Sai's hand has nice space now to animate while he's talking. So lead room, he's looking across the camera right here, and the interviewer's on this side. In this case, in Ron up here, the camera's right over here, and the interviewer is over here. So here's an example that could have been a lot better. Let's go ahead and play it.
Truth is, if you get to 26 and aren't smoking, you're never going to take up smoke. And it's also true that nicotine is incredibly addictive. So once you take it up, it's very, very difficult to stop. So that's the reason why it's important to target this generation and every young generation.
Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of airiness sound going on. That's the air conditioning in the room. They didn't use a microphone. They didn't use a clip-on microphone, so that camera microphone is picking up the entire room, including a bubbling, office feature, water feature that's in there. They should have gone to another room. They put him right up on top of the flags, right on top of the wall, basically. They didn't follow the rule of thirds, which would be up in this region. They almost put his face in the center. And so let's see what we could have done. We called this interview back in and redid it so that we could get it a little bit better. So that's how it looks afterwards. We're using a lapel microphone, so the sound's going to be a little bit better.
This is an age group very, very influenced by what their peers think, very influenced by what they think is normal, which is the right thing to do. The truth is, most people don't smoke, but the advertising is such that it makes you feel that smoking is in fact the cool thing to do, the right thing to do.
Okay, so you can see we pulled him out. He's about 15 feet maybe off of that wall. Again, microphone that you can hear him much clearer. We put him much closer aligned in a rule of third. And you can't see it, but right over here, there's a giant window with lots of sunlight coming in on it, the side of his face here, and a little bit towards the front. So it's kind of spilling, and instead of putting him in front of it, he's on the side, and that's our main light source. So I hope you can take a few of these tips with you the next time that you shoot your next video project, your interview project, and I hope to see you soon in the Multimedia Lab.